Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wildin' in the stand. For laid back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gon' be our year. We're here, drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring, yeah.
see me in the grave. Come out the law in the rave. Oh no, I can't wait. You can read what you sow in the day. I was down, now I'm up to the plate. Got a couple hits, cause you know I can't play. We gon' win it no matter what the shape. Got the stick, we gon' bring it out the shape. I was down below the commas. I put dollars on my head like I don't wanna. Yeah, I'm proud of what I did, I'm gonna come up. Yeah, you left me on red, so don't try to run it. Want no smoke, then come in peace. Flow so foreign overseas. Got them praying, they like please. They want cheddar, not no cheese. Undefined, they don't get it, it's amazing. I was down bad in the basement. I would pray to God for a placement. I was never patient, I was always racing. Got me on the drive, that's a flagrant. Little boy, tell me what you chasing. We gotta do better, gotta be clever. Gotta love more, that's a statement. Yeah, they just wanna see me in the grave. Come out the law in the rave. Oh no, I can't wait. You can read what you sow in the day. I was down, now I'm up to the plate. Got a couple hits, cause you know I can't play. We gon' win it no matter what the shape. Got the stick, we gon' bring it out the safe.
It's silver step, yeah, I was just inside the grave. When I resurrected in like 3 whole days. Shut up on my car, I had to sneak the A's. I might take a tenant because we the wave. Walk around the house, got drip on anyway. They gon' eat it up like it's a dinner day. Seen a Lambo, claimed it on the interstate. Fame is nothing when it's Jesus in the stage. On the front and silver, it's the game. I feel my calendar, I'm losing track of all the days. Call me water boy, and I was giving lemonade. I was sitting on the bench, they had to put me in the game. I be from the da-da-da-da-da, they said ices in my veins. Gotta shit up, guess what, I'll never be ashamed. Pushing on the breakthrough when I know it's gonna be great. It's time to celebrate you when your family gon' hate.
They just wanna see me in the grave. Come out the law in the rave. Oh no, I can't wait. You can read what you sow in the day. I was down, now I'm up to the plate. Got a couple hits, cause you know I can't play. We gon' win it no matter what the shape. Got the stick, we gon' bring it in. I'm back like I never left. They just treating every song like another check. I'm pulling up to every court and I'm calling next. They try to end me, now I'm stopping my foot on their neck. You'll be surprised what they do for attention. God looks into your heart and intentions. I see you judging in all of my mentions. I'm out the grave, I thank God for redemption. Now I'm taking it a step at a time. My future is bright like I turned on the lights. It's crazy how I see them right through the blind. I used to explain how I'm catching these flights. Don't hit my DMs with arrogance. I gotta do it with excellence. I'm reaching the needy, it's evident. And they still in the room with the elephant. Wow. Yeah, they just wanna see me in the grave. Come out the law in the rave. Oh no, I can't wait. You can read what you sow in the day. I was down, now I'm up to the plate. Got a couple hits, cause you know I can't play. We gon' win it no matter what the shape. Got the stick, we gon' bring it out the safe.
Welcome to Royal Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wildin' in the stand. For laid back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gon' be our year. We're here, drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring, yeah.
What's up, Kings fans? Welcome back to another session of group therapy on the Royal Rebounds Podcast with Calvin and Barry. The Sacramento Kings get whooped tonight, 117-92. What started out as such a promising night and an awesome first half of basketball turned sour. If it's your first time to this channel, make sure you guys subscribe to join the Royal family. If you're a Kings fan, hit that like button down below. And if you're a Lakers fan, go home. All right, Cal, what a rough loss tonight. I was so happy at halftime. I was. And, you know, the Kings were playing well. There were a few injuries tonight. You know, Trevor Ariza is out. Avery Bradley's out. LeBron James is out. He is in health and safety protocols. I don't know if it's official that he has COVID or if he's a close contact of somebody.
I did see he tested positive.
Oh, wow. Okay. LeBron tested positive. Hearts go out to him. HB was out tonight. Mo Harkless out. Marvin Bagley out. The Sacramento Kings were out in this game. You know, they started off so good. And then Malik Monk hit a deep three to end the second quarter, and it just went all bad from there. Calvin, you want to give us your first thoughts?
Yeah, man, what an entertaining game between the Warriors and Suns tonight. Back and forth. Steph has a terrible shooting night, but they still we're not talking about that game, are we?
No.
Sorry. I was confused by the entertaining game tonight. Kings Lakers. Yeah, let's get into it. It was a rough one. Like you mentioned, the Kings started off playing really, really well in this game. Everything was working for them. They seemed to have a really good game plan to start. They were playing fast. They were attacking the basket. They were converting. They were scoring. And defensively, they were creating turnovers and getting out and running. This game was a complete mirror image. First half, everything that the Kings did well and the Lakers did poorly were exact opposites in the second half. Those same things the Kings did terribly in the second half, and the Lakers did very, very well. Lakers turned it up defensively in the second half. Like you said, they started hitting threes. Malik Monk is the Kings killer, I guess, all of a sudden. And they get absolutely blown away in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at a loss for words on this game. You know, I was very disappointed with the outcome of this game, with the score. But to be honest with you, Cal, the thing that disappointed me most about this game was hearing the Lakers chants in the crowd. Part of this game felt like a home game in LA. I was very, very unhappy. You know, there's too many Lakers fans in the Sacramento area. I don't know if they made the drive or they're just undercover Kings fans, or the Kings have been so bad that, you know, they turned to be Lakers fans. But it was unfortunate to see all those people in the stands there. It really was. And just another rough loss for the Sacramento Kings. You know, the Kings started out so hot in this game. Rashawn Holmes was playing incredible. His first game back since injury and some illness. He looked great. Him and Metu were both playing incredible. I think they were both 100% from the field at halftime. Finished pretty well, but not many other players on the Kings had a good game. Most people disappeared. I love the aggressiveness I saw from De'Aaron Fox in the first half, getting to the basket. The dude is so quick, man. I saw a missed free throw by Russell Westbrook, and Fox is literally at the basket in like 2 seconds, gets fouled, goes to the line, only makes one. But Russell Westbrook really turned this game around, and he took over in the second half. And, you know, the Kings just weren't able to weather the storm.
No, not at all. You were absolutely right. The few, and they were very few, bright spots in this game were obviously Rashawn Holmes being back. You can just see how much of a difference it makes when he plays. And not just him individually, but for the rest of the team, and particularly Tyrese Haliburton. It just creates so many more things, opens up so many more things out there for him. And I loved what I saw from Metu. The energy in the second half started to die off. But that was the entire team. It wasn't just him, and that was, you know, a combination of things. But this is why I like Metu. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to word this here. This is why I hold Metu higher than I do Marvin Bagley. It's nights like tonight, because the things that he can do out there, Marvin Bagley, some of those things he's not capable of doing. Yep. Metu, just like Tyrese Haliburton, has great anticipation. He plays passing lanes very well. He's a great help defender. He's extremely athletic. He can get up and run down the court better than Marvin Bagley can. If he can ever develop an outside shot, he is definitely a starting forward in this league, I believe. Outside of that, not much good you can say here. I, too, loved the aggressiveness from De'Aaron Fox early in this game, pushing the pace, pushing the issue. The Kings as a team were playing really, really fast, but it was the turnovers. Even from the beginning of the game, when I considered him playing well, he was still careless with the ball, turning it over, dribbling it off of his foot. He needs to be able to drive right more, especially in transition. Yep. You know, there were many opportunities here that I saw where he could have gotten to the basket very easily if he went right. Defenders are expecting him to go left, especially when he's coming down full speed. I mean, he has the defender exactly where he wants them, and if he just makes one straight move to the right a couple of times, it's going to create so many more things for him. He always does the jab step, go back to the left, and then ends up spinning over his left shoulder. He just has to be able to go right a little bit more, especially when he's out on the break there. I liked what I saw from Davion in the first half as well. he came in and he hit a couple threes.
Yep.
He also was getting out and running. They were finding him in transition. He seemed like he had a better knack for how to guard Russell Westbrook in the first half. That all went to shit in the second half. But give credit to the Lakers. They made the necessary adjustments at halftime. They knew exactly what the Kings were trying to do. They were putting them in the pick and roll and throwing lobs, getting to the basket and creating open passes inside for their big men, Metu and Holmes.
Yep.
In the second half, they used their length and their size, and they took that away, and they said, we're going to force the Kings to make jump shots.
Yep.
The Kings shot horribly again from 20%, and they did not make the necessary adjustments at keeping up with the Lakers in the second half, and that's why they got blown out.
Yeah, and, LeBron James didn't play in this game, as we mentioned earlier. The Lakers have not played well without him this season. I think they were 4-7 without him and 7-4 with him. Now they're 5-7 without him. Kings are 3-8 at home this year now. Not a great home team. But, this Lakers team has a ton of talent. They have 57 combined all-star appearances on this roster. They got a couple MVPs. They got Defensive Player of the Years. And that's not even counting a guy like Rondo and Anthony Davis. So this team has a ton of talent. But Malik Monk just seems to step up against his old Kentucky teammate in De'Aaron Fox and against the Sacramento Kings and just knock shots down. I loved what I saw early on in this game, seeing the pick and roll action from Haliburton and Holmes. They were playing incredible together, and the Kings got away from that. And then it just seemed to go all downhill from there. The Lakers went on a bunch of runs. I stopped writing down all the runs because there was like a 15-4 run, a 10-0 run, a 12-0 run. There was so many runs in this game by the Lakers. And, the Kings couldn't buy a bucket. They finished the third quarter. The last 7 minutes of the third quarter, they finished without a single field goal. And then they go into the fourth quarter, and they didn't make their first field goal until 8 minutes and 38 seconds left in the fourth quarter.
And at that point, they were 4 of 22 for the half.
Yeah,
the second half.
That's over. That's over 10 minutes without a field goal, and you're not going to win basketball games like that. It gets even worse. Then Davion Mitchell goes down after rolling his ankle on one of the referee's foots, and you're like, oh my God, he's grabbing his ankle, rolling on the ground. It looked really, really bad. Yeah. He went back to the locker room. Luckily enough, he was able to come back into the game and play. We'll see how his ankle's doing tomorrow, once the adrenaline and everything wears off. But it just got so ugly, man. So ugly. The Lakers could not miss from 3-point range, and, they were taking out their frustrations on the Kings from that last game. One thing that really did surprise me, though, is I saw Louis King come in super early in this game.
Yeah.
He came in the first quarter. What did you see from him tonight?
I didn't see much. I mean, he got whistled for a lot of fouls early and often as soon as he came into the game. A lot of, cheap hand stuff out on Carmelo Anthony. And that, that happens throughout the course of the game. He was aggressive looking for his shot. I think that he knew the opportunity that he was given here. He didn't really impress me too much, to be honest with you, both offensively or defensively. I'm not going to say that, the Kings should stop playing him or anything like that, but, I just didn't really see that much from him.
Yeah, I agree. It was so tough, man, to watch this game. I'm still trying to heal myself because, I actually thought the Kings had a chance to win this game. And, until
when the Kings were up, they went on, I forget what the run was, but they were up 40-28 in the second quarter.
Yep.
I thought they were going to win by 15 points. I really did. They knew they had the right game plan. And, like I said, give credit to the Lakers. They made the necessary adjustments. But the Kings defensively in the second half, it was awful. It was terrible to watch. The first half, their rotations were so great. They were doubling with purpose and authority, and that's the biggest difference, man. You have to double early and often in a game like this when you're playing undermanned, playing undersized. Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis in the post. In the first half, the Kings did a great job of doubling and trapping and making the hard traps, and that's why they were getting steals.
Yep.
Because they were forcing the Lakers to make errant passes. In the second half, a trap or a double is useless if you're just going to walk into it with your hands down and stand 3 feet away from somebody. That does nothing. That puts you at a horrible disadvantage defensively, and that's what gave the Lakers all those great open looks from 3.
Yep.
And there you go. You're down 20.
And
just
AD
like that.
was working.
He
was working. He was backing guys down.
You can't. So when he catches the ball like that with his back to the basket, you can't wait until he's on his 3rd or 4th dribble to send somebody over to him. It has to be immediate. He's got to get rid of the ball right away.
Yep, I agree. Kristen had a good comment here in the chat. Buddy Hield was taking some crazy, ridiculous threes tonight.
Absolutely
I
horrible.
remember I saw one. I saw a couple where like the man is right in front of him, hand in his face, and he just pulls up, misses a 3. Then there was that deep 3 early in the shot clock. Like there was probably 20 seconds left in the shot clock, and you hear Alvin Gentry yelling, "No, buddy, no." And he's just jacking up shots. That's what we saw in the last game against the Grizzlies was the Kings got down and they just fall in love with the 3 ball, thinking that they can shoot their way out of this mess. And that's something they can't do. You mentioned, size. The Lakers have a ton of size. We saw Dwight Howard pushing guys, shoving people out of the way.
Yeah.
I felt like I was watching the 2002 Western Conference Finals. The refs weren't calling a single foul on the Lakers, and the Kings were getting whistled for everything. But I was really surprised I didn't see Tristan Thompson in this game, considering, the size the Lakers have. They had issues rebounding, the Kings did, and, standing up some of those guys like AD, Dwight Howard. You need a guy like Tristan Thompson. But before we get any further here, you want to jump here into the box score?
Yeah. So the one bright spot here in this whole thing, Rashawn Holmes. I'll just read his stat line and then we'll move on. 27 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, 12 of 13 from the field, 3 of 5 at the free throw line, and 33 minutes in his first game back in action. I don't think anything else is really even worth mentioning here. Russell Westbrook had 23 points and Anthony Davis had 25. And, of course, we talked about Malik Monk, 8 of 16 from the floor, 6 of 10 from 3, and 22 big points off the bench. He was, to the Lakers, what the Kings need from Buddy Hield tonight.
Yeah.
That's what they need from him.
Yeah, ridiculous game. Just looking at some of these numbers, 6 points from Tyrese Haliburton, 5 points from Buddy Hield, 8 points from Davion Mitchell. Nobody on the bench was in double figures. It was just a really unfortunate game for anybody not named Rashawn Holmes. And if I'm Rashawn, I am pissed that we lose this game when I have 27 points and 9 rebounds, 2 blocks.
Yep.
And he was playing incredible, 12 of 13 for the night. It was a crazy game. All right, enough talking about those numbers here. Anything you liked here in team stats? Anything you wanted to highlight? I know we talked about turnovers.
Well, the fast break points in the first half alone. I mean, everything that I liked was just in the first half, but they got out to a fantastic start running the floor. Fast break points were, I don't remember exactly what they had at halftime, but it was very close to 23, what they finished for the game. They got to the free throw line enough. I would like them to convert a little bit more than that. 6 of 29 from 3 is awful. They didn't get out-rebounded terribly. They lost the battle inside in points in the paint, which is my, biggest stat for them every night. But they still had 52 points in the paint. That's not a horrible night by any means.
Half of those is Rashawn Holmes.
Exactly. And that just goes to show how important he is to this team. The offensive rebounds, that it wasn't like they got killed on the offensive boards necessarily. So this game just slipped away from them in the third quarter because, like I said, the Lakers made big-time adjustments defensively to take away what the Kings were getting easy buckets with in the first half, and that forced the Kings into shooting jumpers, and they were missing. And then they couldn't get any stops on the other end because they're not rotating as well anymore. They're not doubling as hard. And they got taken out of their fast-paced play got neutralized because the Lakers got to the free throw line. That slows the game down. The Lakers hit multiple threes in a row.
Off turnovers.
That slows you down. So the one advantage that the Kings had in this game was taken completely away from them.
Yeah. Let's talk about this starting lineup. It was an interesting one tonight. You know, Fox, Haliburton, Davis, Metu, Holmes. Part of this is because of the injuries. You know, no Barnes, no Mo Harkless, no Bagley. What'd you like? What'd you dislike from this starting five?
Well, I mean, again, I sound like a broken record, but I liked the energy and the rotations that they were playing with defensively in the first half. You know, there were a couple plays there. In fact, one in particular in the first quarter. Tyrese Haliburton comes all the way from the weak side. He's not the one that comes with the double team. He sees that there's a double team. Buddy Hield is actually supposed to be the next man over to rotate to the closest defender. Tyrese sees that he doesn't rotate there, so he goes all the way across the court, covers the closest pass. Then as the ball gets worked around, he rotates back. He guarded 4 players on one possession, all around the outside of the key until he returned back to his original man that he's supposed to be guarding. You know, it's plays like that. Chimezie Metu, same thing. He was in the passing lanes. He was anticipating off these good, hard doubles. Terrence Davis, I'm a little confused as to why he continues to get the start. I realize they've got guys hurt or, you know, guys not playing, although it looked to me like Mo Harkless was dressed for this game. So I don't know what the issue was there, why he didn't play. But Terrence Davis should not be a starter on this team. I just don't see why we're doing that, especially against a team like the Lakers where he's going to be put in a really, really tough matchup defensively just because of his size. Because he's playing a forward position.
Mo Harkless was out with a knee injury. Bagley's out with a illness. And then I think Barnes is still dealing with that foot issue.
Well, yes, obviously. Barnes was the only one I saw who didn't have he was in street clothes. So, you know, it is what it is. The Kings are down players, so they don't have their full rotation. But like you mentioned, I'm surprised I didn't see Tristan Thompson this game, especially when the Lakers are, making that first initial run to take a big lead in the third quarter. He's an energy guy. He's a veteran. He seems like the ideal person to bring in a situation like that, even if it's only going to be for a couple of minutes. But you know, this also comes down to the Kings not having a go-to player on this team. I mean, we want De'Aaron Fox to be that guy, but as you mentioned, 9 field goal attempts in the game. And in the first half, it didn't really matter that he wasn't shooting that much because they were playing through Rashawn Holmes. They were moving the ball, passing it, whipping it around the horn. In the second half, it's all dribbles. They're out of sync offensively, and that's when, as the franchise player, the best player on this team, you need to, in that moment, be the leader and be more aggressive and look for your shot. So, disappointed in De'Aaron Fox in that regard.
Yeah, you know, looking here at the box score, I was surprised to see that De'Aaron Fox got 36 minutes in this game. Because there was a huge chunk of time where I'm like, where is Fox at? Why is Fox not playing? The Lakers are starting to blow this game wide open, and Fox, I don't even see him. And then I saw him in the corner, and I'm like, oh, he is in the game. Yeah. What is going on here? And, you know, we talked about the field goal drought, almost 10 minutes without a field goal in this game. And Rashawn Holmes was playing incredible. He was perfect from the field. Why don't you feed it into him inside? He's the guy that can get you a bucket. Why are the Kings still making bad passes? Why are they jacking up threes? Why is Buddy Hield shooting super deep threes? Feed it into the big man inside. Metu was playing amazing also. And you and I were both critical of Metu last game, saying that he took too many shots. And, you know, early in this game, he was cooking. And I was like, you know what? Metu he's playing within himself in this game. And I really like that. He had like 3 steals in the first half. You know, he was getting good buckets. Every shot he was taking was a good shot. And then he kind of falls off a little bit in the third quarter. But I'm just disappointed that during this whole drought, they should have gotten a bucket. They could have dished it into Richaun Holmes, just keep feeding Holmes. It was his first game back. They need a go-to guy that can get them a bucket. And as good of a game Richaun had, I think it just shows that either the coaching staff or the players, somebody doesn't trust Richaun enough that they're just going to keep feeding him the ball to try and get them out of this drought.
Well, that's the biggest issue with Richaun Holmes' game is that, yeah, I mean, he had 27 points tonight. He only misses one field goal attempt, but he's so dependent on guards putting him in a position to get a good shot. I mean, yes, he has that great push shot from the foul line or the foul line area, but he's not going. You're not going to give him the ball on the low block and say, "Go get us a bucket." He doesn't have enough post moves in his arsenal, and he doesn't have a left hand to turn to and go try to get a shot that way. It's all right hand dominant. And really, Metu is most effective in that same way. I mean, Metu can definitely create more for himself offensively than Richaun can, but we really haven't seen him shoot well tonight. He only took 1 3 in this game, which I thought was great because he was really focused on offensive rebounds, running the floor, being that same type of player that Richaun is. So, you mentioned trying to play through them inside. The Kings just don't really have that player that, Tristan Thompson has done that in short spurts here and there. You can actually give him the ball on the low block and let him create for himself, try to get to the foul line or get a hook shot off or something like that. But Holmes, Holmes doesn't do that for you. And really, Richaun couldn't have really played much better tonight. I mean, he did everything that they needed him to do. He rebounded, he defended the basket, and he was the lob man and the roll man that they needed. That the Kings did not get anywhere near enough out of their guards in this game.
Yep.
And as a guard-dominant team, you're going to lose 9 times out of 10 when that happens.
Yeah, RP Fox's usage rate this season is about a 28. He was almost a 31 last season. So having the ball in Tyrese Haliburton's hands a little bit more definitely affects De'Aaron Fox and his usage. And maybe he needs the ball more. I don't know. When I was watching the game, Katie commented early on, and she's like, I love what I'm seeing out of De'Aaron Fox. He's letting Haliburton run the pick and roll, and he's focusing on defense. And they were getting a ton of steals in the first half. They were jumping in passing lanes. As you said, they were double teaming early and often, and it worked out really well, and they just totally got away from that in the third quarter. The fourth quarter was not too kind to the Kings also. Only 18 points. They allowed 30 points for the Lakers. But, the third quarter is where the Kings really, really lost this game. Allow 37 points. You only score 15. You can't get a bucket. And, I hate to say this, but we weren't getting calls. We just weren't getting calls. And
that doesn't help.
I don't want to blame the referees for this loss because it's definitely not their fault. The Kings lost this game straight up. But it's deflating as a player when you're not getting any calls. There was an awesome block. I think it was by Richaun Holmes. They end up challenging the play during one of the timeouts, and it didn't get reversed. That was a foul. A foul on him.
That was a foul.
I think it was all ball, man.
No way.
I think it was all ball.
That was a foul. He did have some great blocks in this game, but that wasn't one of them.
And then later on, you see Dwight Howard just shoving guys, pushing people out of the way. Yeah. Carmelo Anthony taking advantage of Davion Mitchell, swiping through, and it's just frustrating, man. It's frustrating.
Oh, incredibly frustrating. This is the most inconsistent team in the entire NBA. There's no doubt in my mind. This is not a playoff team. I mean, I'm sorry to bring all my negativity out now, but this is not a playoff team. I'm sorry. Even if they were to somehow turn things around and start playing well, the cards are stacked against them so much at this point in the season. In this division, where, the Warriors and the Suns are running away with it. The Lakers are now back over 500. And, oh, by the way, the Kings play the Clippers tomorrow, who are kind of like an afterthought at this point, and they're still a pretty good team. So, I'm not really sure what the answer is here. I think the Kings definitely need to be exploring some trade options. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know where you go from here. I mean, a lot of people are going to be wanting Ben Simmons at this point. I still don't know if I want Ben Simmons. I know that he definitely helps this team in a lot of areas, but depending on what you're going to give up for him, it's just they're in a really interesting and difficult hole here as a franchise.
Yeah, what up, Lane? Welcome. Good to see you, bud. Yeah, it's really tough. And, on the topic of Ben Simmons, I like Ben Simmons. I think he's a good player. Obviously, he has flaws. I don't think you could name a player on this Kings team who doesn't have flaws to his game. But at this point, it's like, what shape is Ben Simmons even going to be in?
Very good question.
Is he going to be ready to contribute to a team this season? Or is it going to take him 15 games to get his legs back, to get integrated in a team? I feel like a big trade for a guy like Ben Simmons is almost like punting on the season, because I like Ben. He's locked up for a few more years. So if you trade for him, you're not expecting a lot right away. It's more of like a long-term play. And maybe the Kings get another, high draft pick, punt the rest of this season, move on, start out next year. But then what do you do with Fox? What do you do with Haliburton? What do you do with Davion Mitchell? Not everybody can handle the ball. And, the Kings haven't really had this problem in a really long time. But you talk about a lot of good teams in the past, like when LeBron went to Miami, you're like, wow, these guys are all good players, but there's not enough balls to go around. Yeah. You look at some of those awesome Lakers teams with Steve Nash and Kobe, underperformed because there wasn't enough ball to go around. And this Kings team is not a good team, and they could have too many guys that need the ball. Yeah.
And the difference between the Kings and those teams that you just mentioned are those teams still made the playoffs. The King,
yeah, no, you're right.
But no, I'm with you on that. I mean, Brooklyn is the same way. That's kind of the way that the league has gone now. It's how stacked can you make your team, because you have to be able to compete against all these super teams. And Kristen, I saw your comment there in the chat, and I'm with you. I'm not saying give up and, miracles still happen and all that stuff. But you still have to be realistic about what's happening with this team. As I mentioned before, they are 100% the most inconsistent team in the NBA. It's one thing to be one of the worst teams in the league. You come out and you just expect them to lose every game. But the Kings play to a certain level fairly frequently that they give you the impression they are going to win. They gave me that impression tonight. And yet they end up on the wrong side of these blowouts, just like all these other bad teams. So that just tells me we know that they have problems. Their head coach the head coach they had to start the season is not there anymore. So that's going to be a question mark surrounding the team the whole rest of the way this season. But I just don't think that the way the roster is constructed right now is a good fit. I don't think that these guys all mesh with each other in the right ways. And I'm not talking about anyone specifically. I just don't think that the way the roster is built right now is conducive to winning ball games. I'm still big on De'Aaron Fox. I don't want to see him traded. I think that he is the best player on this team, and I think that the King, he's so young, he still has so much opportunity to become, the player that everyone expects him to be, and one of the best guards in the NBA, because that's what he looked like last season at the end of the year.
Yeah, and you talk about this team is one of the most inconsistent teams you've ever seen. And HB is out. He's been out for a little time.
Yes.
we talk about Harrison Barnes being Mr. Consistency for this Kings team, but the Kings weren't that great with Harrison Barnes on the court. They got blown out quite a few times with HB. They've had a lot of inconsistency even when he was healthy. So when Harrison Barnes does return to this team, I don't really know how much it's going to help them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're in a hole right now. It'll help. It obviously will help because Harrison Barnes is one of the better players on this team, and he was a guy that was scoring, a bunch, 20 points a game. So that's a big hole to fill for any team. But yeah, I don't know how much exactly it's going to help going forward.
Yeah, Harrison Barnes could have stopped that run by the Lakers, but I don't think he's really making a huge difference in this game. The Lakers just looked like a veteran team with a bunch of savvy players that just took advantage of a young team late in the game. And the Kings just couldn't stop it. They didn't know what to do. And Alvin Gentry didn't have enough timeouts to stop some of these runs and turn around this game. Everybody that's just joining in right now, I want to say welcome to Royal Rebounds TV, your favorite Sacramento Kings YouTube channel with Calvin and Barry. This is the Royal Rebounds Podcast live. We are breaking down the Sacramento Kings loss tonight, 117-92 to the LA Lakers. If you're a Kings fan, make sure you hit that like button down below. We need some more Kings fans in here. Please hit that button. We want to see you all. And if you'd like to join the Royal family with Calvin and I, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. We put out fresh Kings content almost every day. We go live after every single game. We have a show called The Royal Report that debuts every Friday. We break down a week's worth of Kings action in about 30 minutes. All right, Calvin. So it seems here like 78% of our crowd want to blow up this squad. So I want to talk about some changes that you would make. You and I did a Sacramento Kings 2K rebuild last night. If you guys haven't seen that, make sure you check that out on the channel. I wouldn't say it was a very realistic rebuild, but we had a lot of fun. We were bored. We were playing PlayStation 5. We were making trades. We made the Kings make it to the Western Conference Finals in season number 2. And then we kind of fell apart a little bit after that. Even though we had the best record in the West, we got eliminated early in the playoffs the next year. But I'm seeing guys like Kemba Walker as a potential guy that's available. I see Christian Wood is available. John Wall is available. Is there any guy that really stands out to you that the Kings should try and go after? Or are you just trading guys for draft picks? Or how would you approach the rest of this season?
Well, like I said before, I don't want to trade De'Aaron Fox unless there's something out there that blows me away by so much. I don't think swapping De'Aaron Fox for a guy like Kemba Walker is the answer. Mm-hmm. I don't think John Wall helps this team that much either. Christian Wood is a guy I would definitely target. He fills a need on this team, and he could play the 4. He's a tremendous talent, does a lot of things really, really well. I think they need to get much more depth at the wing position. They're, like I said, so guard heavy. So trying to go after one of these premier guards that is available right now doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Mm-hmm. I would be interested in draft picks. Yeah. But again, it really depends on the situation and the team that I'm dealing with. I think it's got to start with Buddy Hield. To me, has to be one of, if not the first person to go on this team.
Someone in the chat,
he's hot, but just like the team is inconsistent. And yes, Charlie, you're right. The team is so inconsistent that you know what happens, and that technically means they're consistent if that's how you want to define it. But
yep,
he does more damage to this team than he does good. So he would be him and, perhaps Marvin Bagley, or whether it's one other person that I'm trying to package, I would be trading and looking for wing depth or a legit starting 4.
Okay.
That would be my first move.
Yeah, Bagley was out with an illness tonight. Kristen says that she wants a legit center on this team. Does that mean you want to get rid of Holmes, or you want to move Holmes to the 4 and bring somebody else in? And if you were to bring in a guy like Christian Wood, do you think he could play with Richaun Holmes? Who's the 4? Who's the 5?
I absolutely think he could play with Richaun Holmes. To me, Holmes is still the 5 because, and I mean, the positions are, they're not 100% meaningless, but there's a lot of blurred lines now in positions. But to me, Christian Wood is a guy who can play on the perimeter. Richaun Holmes is not. So, but do I think they could play alongside each other? Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah, speaking of centers, another thing that I was surprised about with tonight's game was Alex Len. He only played 12 minutes tonight, 4 fouls. He had a steal, he had an assist, a rebound. He made his only shot, a 3. But considering all the depth at the center position on this Lakers squad and their size, they got Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan, Anthony Davis. I'm a little surprised the Kings didn't play some of these bigs a little bit more in Alex Len and Tristan Thompson. We saw in the last game, the Kings went small to counteract the bigs of the Lakers, and it ended up paying off for them. But it just makes me feel like when you're bleeding, you got to do something to stop the bleeding. You got to change something up. So I'm really surprised that they didn't throw some more size in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Alex Len did get himself in foul trouble. And the thing, the reason why I would like to have a guy like Christian Wood on this team is because in the second half, the Kings tried to run the pick and roll with both Len and with Holmes because that's what was working in the first half. They were getting easy lobs at the basket. What the Lakers did is they extended the pressure out deep on the perimeter. So when that pick and roll was set, they were trapping and applying pressure really quick and pushing the ball out further from the basket. That leaves Alex Len and Richaun Holmes open in the middle, and the Kings dumped it in there to them a lot. But those guys are not good mid-range players. Mm-hmm. We saw Alex Len catch the ball. He was wide open. Takes 2 dribbles. Russell Westbrook comes over and takes a charge that you could have seen coming if you were in LA.
Was not a good play.
You could have seen that coming if you were in LA.
Yep.
So, and that's just because Alex Len, he's not a guy that can put the ball on the floor. He doesn't have a consistent mid-range shot. If you had somebody like Christian Wood on this team, that's a play that he can make easily. Mm-hmm. So it really, really changes the dynamic of the offense there. You have these 2 guys, they have to be closer to the basket in order to be effective. Unless Alex Len is going to be left alone from 3, he somehow has shown that he can make that shot consistently this year. But I'm still not relying on it.
Yeah, Kevin makes a good point here. Richaun looked like a different guy after he tweaked his ankle. I remember Dwight Howard fell on his leg, and then later on in the game, he seemed to roll that ankle. He
definitely got a hit.
And I remember looking at he was kind of limping a little bit, but we've seen that throughout this season, him getting hurt and still playing. But I was a little surprised because I was like, wow, he's really limping out there. And then I see the next play down, and he goes up for an oop, and I'm like, okay, maybe he's okay. But there was a huge difference in his aggressiveness after he tweaked his ankle. Good point, Kevin. Kristen says that Len always gets in foul trouble. That's true, he does. But, what are you saving this guy for? Let him foul out. I don't care. Like, you got plenty of other guys to throw in there. And Tristan Thompson needed to be in this game. Sass is right. TT was killing the Lakers last game.
Definitely. Very surprised that he didn't play.
I don't know if there was something wrong with him or what, but yes.
And Damian Jones also had a good game against LA in that triple overtime win. They could have thrown him out there when they're down 20 or 27. Well, that was the largest lead of the game, right? 27 points.
Which is crazy because I remember in the third quarter, the Lakers went up 2, and they're like, this is the first lead they've had since 4-2 in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. And then they just blow it open.
Yeah, it was over from there.
27 points is crazy, man. It's crazy. RP says Holmes took TT's minutes. I think there was enough minutes for all these guys. You know,
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Tristan Thompson play in a lot of games that Rashawn Holmes played in. I mean, Rashawn Holmes was playing very, very well. He was by far the most effective big man they had tonight. So obviously you want to play him more when he's having a game like that. But
yeah.
I still think there was definitely a way to find 8 to 10 minutes for Tristan Thompson in this game.
Definitely. Especially when you got a guy like Lewis King playing 15 minutes coming in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And then Buddy Hield playing 32 minutes off the bench. He only took 7 shots in this game. He only made 1, but it's just like, wow. These stats are just blowing me away. Like, who took all the shots on this Kings team? 14 for Davion Mitchell.
Yeah.
He led the team. 3 of 14
field goal attempts. Yep.
It was just wild. But I think, back on what we were saying earlier, Russell Westbrook really took control of this game.
He did.
He had a sweet layup where he switches from his right hand to his left after he gets past the defender and just lays it right up there on the glass. We also got to see some Rondo tonight, too.
That was on Metu, too. I mean, that was a great play, a great finish. But Metu, he didn't play that right defensively at all.
Yep. And we also got to see Rondo tonight, too. That was kind of cool. I haven't seen Rondo in a while. I love me some Rondo. And I remember the biggest, the biggest run that the Lakers went on in this game, Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook were on the bench. They weren't even playing. And their team is getting buckets. I saw Malik Monk making threes. I saw Wayne Ellington making threes. It was just ugly. It was really ugly. And Dwight Howard just tore them up. 35 minutes for Dwight Howard tonight. 13 rebounds, 12 points. He was just in the paint all game long.
Yeah, I mean, this was like a football game where you see a team run the ball 40 times a game, and they just continue to pound it and pound it and pound it because they know eventually the offensive line is going to wear down the defense and they're going to start getting big chunk plays, right? The Lakers just continued to pound it and pound it and pound it inside, back it down with Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis, and crash the glass hard. And eventually it worked in the fourth quarter.
Yep. All right, let's move on here. Kings are playing a back-to-back in LA against the Clippers. Pretty wild. Would you have rather played tonight's game in LA too, so that you didn't have to travel on game day? Or
yeah, I mean it's a little unfortunate that you have to, the Golden One Center almost sounds like it's a road game anyway, and then you realize you have to get on a plane and go down to LA. But that's the NBA. I mean, you're traveling all the time anyway. So
Barnes, Harkless, Bagley out again. I think the only injured player on the Clippers would be Kawhi Leonard. So how are you feeling about this game? You got your keys to the game?
I'm throwing away my keys to the game at this point because it really doesn't matter. It's the Kings have to do the same things well every time in order for them to be in contention to win. They have to take care of the ball. They have to shoot better from outside. And that's a combination of actually hitting shots and getting the right types of shots within the offense. They have to rebound. And tomorrow night, they're going to have their hands full with Paul George. I mean, it's going to have to be a crew of people defending him. Mo Harkless would probably be the guy to get in a normal world where he starts. He's probably going to be the one that gets the assignment on him. I don't know if he's going to be able to play tomorrow or not. So if he doesn't, I don't know who's going to guard Paul George. De'Aaron Fox has the ability to guard somebody like him, but he gives up a little bit in size. Metu is the bigger person, the bigger wing, length defender that could guard him. But I don't really like Metu. I don't like anybody on Paul George right now. Davion Mitchell, I don't have any confidence in him on Paul George. So that's going to be... They have to. Paul George has single-handedly won a lot of games for the Clippers this year. So he's the guy, he's the head of the snake that you have to somehow find a way to cut off.
I'm just so disappointed in De'Aaron Fox. And it hates me, or it pains me to say that, because I really like him so much. And he does so much for this Kings team. But he's not consistent. And he doesn't always play like the best player like we need him to be. And it doesn't matter if it's on the offensive end or the defensive end. But nights like tonight, the first half of this game, I'm like, I love what I'm seeing out of De'Aaron Fox. I really do. I love the defense. I love him getting to the basket. I love how aggressive he is. And then he just disappears in the game. And I don't know if it's a health issue. I don't know if he's tired. I really don't know what the issue is, but he's got to figure it out if this Kings team wants any chance to be competitive in these games, because otherwise for the rest of the season, they're going to get lucky in, one of these 4 or 5 games, and then they're going to get blown out in 2 games, and then they're going to have a couple competitive games that they lose at the end. And it's almost more painful to be in a game and have a chance and feel, especially like the first half of this game where they're rolling. Yeah. They had a chance to go in halftime with a double-digit lead, give up a 3. I say give up because it's a half-court heave at the buzzer, and it goes
not a
in.
Miracle shot, but
and it just gives the Lakers the boost they need to just dismantle this Kings team. It really is disappointing. So, Kings play the Clippers tomorrow. Then again on Saturday. You said Paul George is the guy to watch out for. De'Aaron Fox does give up some size. Davion Mitchell gives up even more size. So, I'd expect to see, De'Aaron Fox on him most of the night. Something I did see from the Kings defensively in this game in the first half was they started playing some zone defense to try and help out on some of these bigs. It didn't really seem to work too well, so they went away from that pretty quickly. It'll be interesting to see how they play against this Clippers team. But I feel like as these losses are piling up and piling up and piling up, it's got to put some more pressure on Monty. We already saw it build up on him enough to where he relieved his head coach in Luke Walton. Alvin's in charge. We had a couple good games. Apparently, when I'm in California, the Kings play a lot better because they were 2-0 while I was there for Thanksgiving. And then now I'm back, and they get blown out back-to-back games. I think they almost lost by a combined 60 points in these last 2 games, which is ridiculous. Yeah. But what do you think's going to happen, dude?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's a hard thing to predict. What I do think is going to happen, unfortunately, is that I think the Kings are going to lose a few more games between now and December 15th and the trade deadline. So like you said, that creates more and more pressure as those dates get closer and closer. It's all that you're going to hear from. There's going to be so much noise, around this just isn't working. Who are the Kings going to trade on this team? Who are they going to look to go after? Are they going to be complete sellers and just go for a draft pick? Are they going to try and make some sort of salvageable deals out of this that could end up leading to more wins? And then after that, it's just going to be who is the next head coach. I mean, because after the trade deadline comes and passes, if the Kings don't make enough and make up enough talent or roster wise for them to be competitive again, that's the next move, right? It's the off season is rapidly approaching. Yep. Who's going to be the leader of this team? What kind of style do we want to, it's just like the 2K rebuild that we did last night.
Yep.
This team seems to have no direction right now. They seem to have no real leader right now. And it's always hard for me to say things like that because I've been a part of locker rooms and stuff. And you can have a really strong leader in a locker room that isn't very vocal, somebody that you don't necessarily see on a day-to-day basis from the outside looking in. So I'm not at every practice. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know what's said or anything like that. But there is definitely some things in leadership that you can see on the court in a game. And unfortunately, De'Aaron Fox is not showing many of those things for me right now. I don't need him to be screaming and getting in everybody's face every 5 seconds, but I need to see a little bit more from him. If that's going to be, if he's going to be the franchise player.
I didn't see that from anybody.
You didn't see that from anybody, but that's who it needs to come from. It needs to come from the person that everybody believes is your best player.
Yep.
The guy who is, the franchise, right? He has been put into that role. Whether or not he actually achieves that status or not, or becomes that player.
Yep.
That is who the Kings want him to be and who they need him to be right now.
Yeah, I didn't really see much of that tonight on the Kings roster, and especially Tristan Thompson. He seems to be, or has been, that vocal leader, trying to lift guys up, encourage people. Maybe it's because he didn't play tonight. I don't know what happened before tonight, but he didn't seem involved in this game at all. And I did see Rashawn after he made a bucket in the third quarter. I saw him clapping and saying, come on, we can get back in this game. But he is the only one that I saw with any emotion in this game.
Yeah.
Everybody else just seemed to be completely checked out. And Sass, yes, we were the last team to beat the Phoenix Suns, so that's a positive right there, I guess, however positive you could take that. So, Cal, as the Kings are shifting now, I think it's safe to say that they are downtrending away from the playoffs.
Yes.
I don't know, they could go on a run. They were talking during the game saying this Kings team is a 10-0 run away from being a good team. And I think any bad team is a 10-0 run away from being a good team in the NBA.
Any team, whether you're good or bad, is a 10-0 run away.
But as they start to make this shift and maybe the playoffs become less and less of a realistic option for us fans and then players and then front office see this, what could the Kings do through the rest of this season, not including winning games, that would, I guess, make you feel like this was maybe a somewhat of a successful season? Is there anything that you can salvage from this year by making a trade? What do you feel?
Well, look, this is a winning business. I mean, I'm sorry, that's what it is. 15 years of not making the playoffs. The motive or the idea behind this team was the past couple of years they have started to put the pieces together. They weren't necessarily close a couple of years ago, but you could see maybe the light at the end of the tunnel. De'Aaron Fox was going to be turn into an all-star. They hit on a couple other draft picks. They re-signed Rashawn Holmes. The idea was that this team was taking the right steps, even if they were the very smallest of baby steps, towards the ultimate goal of the playoffs. And it just continues to be one step forward, 2 steps back. So for me, can they make a trade to salvage something out of this season? Yes, they can, but that requires winning more games. That, playing for a draft pick is never the right way to go, in my opinion. For the biggest and most obvious reason of your draft pick isn't guaranteed. Mm-hmm. Even if you finish with the worst record in the league, it's still not guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have a better chance, but it's still not guaranteed. So they need to make some roster changes. I believe that 100%.
So one guy that we brought in last night in our 2K rebuild, some might say he's a realistic option. Some might say he's not realistic, but there have been rumors about him potentially being available for a trade, is Karl Anthony Towns. It's funny. We brought him in for one season. He played really well for us. Then we traded him, and then he ended up winning the finals with who did we trade him to?
Oklahoma City, I believe. For Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. So would you consider bringing him on this team, and what would you be willing to give up for him?
Yeah, I would definitely consider bringing him on the team. I mean, he's a tremendous talent. I still think there are some flaws in his game, but I'll take a guy that is a 27, 11, and 5 player who can shoot from the outside. I mean, he's such a good outside shooter for a guy his size. He can do a little bit of everything. What am I going to give up for him? It's going to take a haul. There's no secret about that. Yep. So, it's going to have to be probably 2 or 3 big name players on this team.
You think he can play with Richaun Holmes?
I think he can, but I don't think that it would be the best way to go for the Kings, because as good as Karl Anthony Towns is on the perimeter, he's also tremendous inside.
Yep.
So, I would rather the Kings have him and a true stretch 4 to go alongside of him rather than try to play him and Richaun Holmes together.
You know what? I know the Kings lost tonight, but the positives I'm taking from this game is I'm still seeing that pick and roll game between him and Haliburton. I think that Haliburton and Holmes have a really, really good connection.
Oh, there's no doubt that they do.
That they didn't seem to have that in the second half of this game. I don't know why. They lost their mojo. But if I'm the front office, I'm looking at that and I'm saying, okay, I got 2 young guys who are both locked up on reasonable contracts for a while. If I am considering blowing this team up or bringing some other guys, maybe I want to keep these 2 because they seem to fit together well. They play together well. Everyone wants to build around De'Aaron Fox, and, I like Fox. But is there another player on this team that really complements him? I don't know. I felt like that was Buddy Hield.
I think he and Karl Anthony Towns wouldn't be a bad combination together, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to be able to trade for Karl Anthony Towns without somebody like De'Aaron Fox, but that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for Minnesota to have D'Angelo Russell and De'Aaron Fox.
Yep.
Also, so.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap up the show here, but before we leave, I want to leave you guys with a couple positives of this Kings team, because I know this game and the last game have been pretty negative, especially after riding so high after that triple overtime victory against the Lakers. But what was somebody saying? 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So we just took 2 steps back. That means maybe we're going to win tomorrow night. I don't know. But just some things to keep in mind here. I feel like this Kings team has changed. It is a new Kings team. And here's a couple reasons why. There's no bad contracts on this team. Buddy and Barnes make a lot of money, but they're both front-loaded contracts, and they decrease every year. And both of them, I think, have some trade value at this point. The team is drafting well. It nailed the last 2 draft picks. A lot of people might consider not in this last year with Davion Mitchell, but all rookies go through struggles. I still think he belongs in the NBA, and I think we're going to see a lot more from him in the future. The Kings have all their future draft picks, so they're not strapped. They have a potential to make a big trade for somebody. They are continuing to put assets together to make a move. They're not letting the players bully the team. There's not a single guy on this team that runs the franchise. We don't have a Boogie Cousins. As good as he was, he bullied this team. He bullied the coaching staff. He bullied management. Kings don't have that anymore. And also, it seems like our whole front office is on the same page and there's no leaks. So there's a couple positive things I want to leave you guys with. And anything else you want to say, Cal?
No, I think we're going to end it on that. Yeah, I like your positivity.
All right, guys. Thank you all for joining us on another Royal Rebounds podcast. Make sure you guys smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. We will see you all tomorrow night after the Clippers game. I don't know what's happening, but we'll see you guys then. Thanks, guys.